The funding for this video is provided by the amazing members of our Patreon. Also contributions from viewers like you. Thank you. Yeah, I started from PBS Kids. What you gonna do? Fight me? Anyway, roll the video. So, oftentimes when we think about like black movies or movies with a black lead, when it comes to, black girls coming of age, the main subject of these stories usually revolve around brutal pain and suffering, with key subjects being teen pregnancy, being A-worded by a man in the family, or just their family in general, or just a random man or whatnot, and police brutality. So for the most part, many coming of age movies that star black girls are just a drag to get through because of how dark and terrifying that they are. And the ones that do focus on other things with black girlhood tend to not really get much attention or very much critically acclaimed for the wrong reasons. And that's not saying much because there aren't many of those movies there. But because most of black girl coming of age movies are just always unsettling and dark, it can be a bit kind of off-putting for us to want to watch them. Like, look, I love Beast of the Southern Wild, I love Seven in the Spades, I love ATL, and I love Akilah and the Bee. But all of these movies just kind of focus on the darkness that sadly comes along with being a black girl. And sometimes we would just love to have more movies specifically, that allow us to be all fun and campy like how the white girls do. Like, it's very interesting to see how white girls are allowed to have more coming of age, campy, fun movies of them in like magical lands and things that just aren't real and don't exist or exist in another universe. But it's like, now y'all gotta be realistic. Y'all gotta have realistic shit. And I'm just like, nah, we allowed to have fun too. But what if I told you that the Monster High franchise has a great movie that I think qualifies in the category of a black girl coming of age? Like, would you believe me? Why, would you think I'm bluffing? Or would you want me to convince you that you should watch it and give it a chance? Hey y'all, it's Harriyanna. I'm back with another video. Hi, hello, how are you guys doing? My name is Harriyanna and welcome to, or welcome back to, the pirate ship, also known as Harry Hook's pirate ship. I am the captain. You were not my first mate. I don't got no first mate because you want to know why? Bring your ear closer to the speaker so you can hear me clearly. I'm dead. My friend Blake, he messaged me and told me that it is so funny to him when I do that. But nobody's worthy of being the first mate. Hi, hello, how are you doing? My name is Harriyanna. Braid needs to stay. And I like to make content based off nostalgia and family and children's entertainment and all the issues that I find within those spaces. Two quick little announcements, mainly because in my last video I spent more time on this. Physical copy of my book, not My Lady Perfidy, I'll show y'all that, but my book, You're Not Crucial, it is back on the website for physical copies. The digital copies are there. We are low in stock right now with the physical copies of my novella. Basically, if you guys are familiar with like the American film industry or whatnot, and you guys haven't followed me for a while, you know I used to be an extra in movies, and in this book I just talk about why I don't do it anymore, because that job was ghetto as hell. It was brutal out here, okay? But if you guys want information, I will give you guys the good and the bad and the ugly, and I really let you all know what it's really like to be an extra in this film industry, and just how like a lot of the industry is in general with other fields of work and things like that. But please check it out. It's a collection of essays, by the way. It's about 11 essays in here. And then the last one I want to talk about is My Lady Perfidy. It's basically a story that is inspired by Gabriel and Natalie's relationship from Miraculous Ladybug, but basically with some color, with some people of color. Natalie's not even white to me, but anyway, basically, My Lady Perfidy is basically a tragic love story, and it's also a big collaborative project between me and 3 other creators. please check it out. The book is available for pre-order, and if you already pre-ordered your book, thank you guys so much. Hopefully it will be sent to you within the next 2 weeks. It's just, y'all know, the United States Postal Service has been slow as hell lately, okay? But I can't wait to go. And then, like, you get this beautiful artwork, and then I'll show you guys some of what it looks like on the inside. I wrote the story. My friend did the photography. Aren't they hot? Aren't they hot? Yes, they sure are. But that is all I gotta say. Make sure you guys go on my website, harriyannahook.com. If you're interested in that, use code HOTSPOT30 for 30% off if you would like some money off of those products. They're available for physical and digital copy. Now let's continue into this video, because y'all didn't come here for me to talk about myself. Y'all came here because you guys want me to convince you why Monster High actually has a good coming of age black girl movie, and let's go ahead and talk about it. While Monster High movies usually focus on like all the characters at some point in the movie, usually within the story there are a few key characters that are the main focus. And in this movie, Monster High 13 Wishes, Howleen is the main focus of the story. Now, Howleen, who is she? She basically is, you know, the younger sister of the it girl of the school, Clawdeen Wolf. She basically kind of just lives in her sibling's shadow. She's not like them. She's very much different from them. I'd say that Howleen is more dorky, and then her brother and sister are more, you know, not dorky, if that makes sense. But she feels as if she's in her sister's shadow because, like I said, Claudine like the school's it girl, like, you know, next to Cleo and Frankie and Dracula and all them. And then there's just little Howleen who wants to make friends. She has trouble fitting in, and she just doesn't like that. And people were trying to like get irritated with Howleen, with her behavior and everything, but I feel like a lot of people tend to forget that it is normal for kids that age to act that way. Like, she's 14, y'all. Like, she's literally 14 years old. Think about how you acted when you were 14, okay? She's 14, and a lot of 14-year-olds feel as if it's the end of the world if they're not fitting in wherever they are, because I completely understand that. I felt like such a big outcast in my middle school and in my high school, and then also I did cheerleading too outside of school. I just felt like I really didn't belong anywhere. Now, as we see, Howleen ends up almost setting a damn fire on the school because she just so desperately wants attention. She wants friends. She wants to be invited to all the parties. She wants a boyfriend. She wants to have like that full-on popular girl high school experience that we're just kind of spoon-fed by the media. Like, we also have to take into consideration that, like, thinking about the nature of the world that we live in, so much of our media that we watch and see and whatnot, most likely Howleen was feeling this way because of so much of what she saw on television. She was like, oh, so that's how the high school experience is supposed to be. And then we saw that her sister kind of emulated that because her sister fit in way weller. Weller, is that a word? Well, anyway, but Claudine basically, Howleen's not her sister. Claudine basically had what Howleen wanted. And that is also what leads to her snapping on her sister later on as this movie goes on. But before we get there, she is in detention with the rest of the girls because they basically are trying to put a stop to what she's doing because she wants to fit in so bad. So they're in detention and they end up finding this vase, you know, the typical genie vase, you know, that people rub in order to, like, you know, get the genie out the bottle. That happened. And she finds this vase, and the girl is named Gigi. And basically, since Howleen was the person that got the vase, she is able to get 13 wishes, and she's able to do whatever the hell she wants with those wishes. But also she is warned that a lot of these wishes have a catch to them, and like the more she does this, the more vulnerable she is to, you know, be making mistakes and whatnot. Like, every wish comes with a price. You can't have your cake and eat it too. We all know like the typical, you know, genie storyline where you wish for one thing and then you get that one thing, but then you see that all that glitters is not that gold because you have to sacrifice something else for that. One of the first things Howleen does is that she wishes that they were out of detention, and it works. But next thing you know, Howleen is going around the school basically using her wishes in order to help other people, simply because while she is nice and she's doing this because she cares, she's mainly doing it because she wants to get other people to like her, because she has a hard time with fitting in. As we saw that she was getting bullied earlier by the older girls at the school. So because she wants to fit in, she's going around helping everyone at the school because she wants to be accepted. And like I said, she does have good intentions with these wishes, but she's just doing them because she knows that the more and more she helps people, the more people are more likely to be her friend. And if you have more friends, like, you know, in the high school setting, you become more and more popular. But as this is going on, howleen is still getting picked on by the older girls at the school, and she doesn't like that. Like, she's like, no, I'm tired of feeling like I'm a loser. I'm tired of people thinking that they can talk to me any kind of way. I'm tired of being pushed around. I'm tired of feeling like I don't belong here. So she just gets very much fed up, and the shadow of Gigi's Ginny basically takes advantage of that. She sees that howleen is just in a very much vulnerable state. And because of that, she's like, I want to be popular. Please grant my wish of being popular. But the girl was like, are you sure that you want to do this? But the dark side was like, no, don't listen to her. Do this. This is what you want to do. You want popularity, right? So howleen is just, like I said, you have to remember the given circumstances. She's already very emotional right now. She was crying because those girls were being mean to her, and she still feels like she doesn't belong in this place. And feeling so out of place in an environment that you have to be in so much is very much draining. So like I said, she was at a low point, and you know when people are at very low points, they make bad decisions. So howleen does wishes that she is the most popular girl in school. And because of this one wish right here, she starts to descend into madness, if that makes sense, with the more popular that she gets. And she starts to become more of a bad person simply because she gets involved with the bad person. There's one thing in particular that I found that stood out the most when we saw that howleen was really losing it, was when everybody was coming up to her and they were like, I want to invite you to my party. I want you to come to my party. So she got invited to all these parties that are on this one weekend at the school. But next thing you know, she was like, wait a damn minute. Y'all listen to me because I'm the most popular girl in school. Y'all need to work your shit around till it like works for my schedule. And in that moment, I knew she's losing it. She needs help. Like, it's just like, it's so sad to see how she went from being like, nobody likes me, no one is helping me, nobody was really there, no one was really helping her. Because I'm gonna get into the problem with Cleo deserved this shit in this movie. Cleo was too nasty to howleen. She had it coming. But there is something I do want to bring up about the way Clawdeen was treating her sister. But basically that moment where I saw that she was like, you guys need to rearrange your schedule so it fits my liking, it shows you that, oh, this girl, she's really been taken advantage of, and she's becoming horrible, and she needs help. This moment in the movie reminded me of this movie called 13. I have talked about 13 in the past on my channel, where I talked about how Chloe and Sabrina's friendship in the movie, in Miraculous Ladybug, the show, reminds me heavily of Evie and Tracy's relationship in 13. But if you guys aren't familiar with what 13 is about, 13 basically is about this girl named Tracy. She wants to fit in. She wants to be popular. It's a lot like 13 Wishes, and she ends up becoming friends with the most popular girls in school, also known as like the school's bad girl named Evie. I gotta be specific when I'm talking about my Eevees. I'm either talking about Descendants Evie, Evie from the Progenies, which was played by me, or Evie Zamora from 13. So she becomes friends with Evie simply because she wants to be popular and she wants to fit in with her. And as Evie is not a good person, she ends up becoming just as bad as Evie too. And that was what was happening with howleen, because she was becoming just as bad as Gigi's shadow that was encouraging her her to do all these horrible things. Howleen becomes just as bad as her, and she begins to do awful things to people. Especially sad when you see that it was being done for not just Howleen's personal gain, but the girl was taking advantage of her and was like, no, the more and more horrible people that you hurt, the more it's able for me to climb on top. Like, she was being taken advantage of this whole movie, and she didn't even realize it because of how desperately she wanted to fit in. Like, that girl didn't do this because she cared about Howleen and her feelings. She did that because she was just using her to see what Howleen could do for her. And you can even see that with Evie and Tracy in 13. That part of the reason why Evie was always up in Tracy's house is because Evie didn't have a mom. Her parents basically abandoned her, and she was with her cousin, but her cousin didn't really care too much for her until things got too bad. Part of the reason why she was always at Tracy's house is because of what Tracy could do for her. She was able to eat there. She was able to have, you know, that motherly love that she desperately wanted. And as going back to 13 Wishes, the more and more obsessed that Howleen becomes with being popular and wanting to fit in, she starts to lose herself. And y'all, I cried. I made sure I cried enough off camera because I simply didn't want to get on here and fucking cry about this, because that was me. That was me at 14. That was me from the ages of 10, 9 really to the age of 14. I cried because that's just literally how things were for me when I was in middle school, when I did cheerleading, and I would go out of my way to do nice things for people and wanted to fit in with them, and I just ended up hurting other people on the side because I just so desperately wanted to fit in. And like, representation matters the most in particular, and it just hits a bit different because when the person is going through similar things like you get it. But then when they look like you and resemble you in some kind of way, it hits differently. She was a very misunderstood black girl that nobody would just listen to. And that's where I have the issue with Clawdeen in this movie. Like I said, at the end of the movie, like I said, this is a kid's movie. Of course, we're supposed to learn. Everyone makes up at the end of the day, happy ending. But one of the major issues with Howleen in this movie is that she felt like her sister wasn't listening to her, and she wasn't. And I completely understand why Howleen didn't want to listen to Clawdeen, because Clawdeen, she's around Clawdeen pretty often. She's around her friends often too. She notices how differently Clawdeen talks to her friends than she does her sister. And that can be offensive to her too, because that's part of the reason. Because she'd be like, Howleen don't listen to me. Howleen don't do this, that, and the other. Howleen's so hard-headed. And I was like, well, maybe it's because you're always talking down to her, Clawdeen. Maybe if you talk to her like you did Frankie and Draculaura, maybe she is more likely to want to listen to you. But it was just irritating because she will always be like, you don't have to fit in, you don't have to do this and then the third. But Howleen even said something to her like, oh, you're popular, of course you're not gonna understand how I'm feeling. And it was just irritating because Clawdeen wasn't even trying to understand why her sister was hurting so much about this. And that is part of the reason why her sister just snapped on her later on in the movie. Like I said, I'm not saying what Howleen did was wrong, but knowing the reason why she had such unhinged behavior in this movie, and part of that has to do with the fact that the person that she was the closest to, her sister, wasn't even helping her all that much. Her sister was basically telling her, don't do this, don't do that, but really, Clawdeen really should have just sat Howleen down and be like, what exactly is going on? What could I do to try to help you with this? But she didn't do that. Hey, we're finishing this video like 2 days later simply because I got really tired out of nowhere in the middle of filming that, and then also Abbott Elementary came on, so let's continue. Where do we leave off? But another interesting thing that I wanted to talk about with this movie is that we don't really get often with a lot of, like, you know, leading black girls in the media, is that while we did see Howleen was in pain, but oftentimes when we see that the black girls are in pain in a lot of these shows, nobody's really helping them for the most part, and they kind of have to fend for themselves. I like how Howleen didn't have to fend for herself, and all the other people at the school did want to help her, especially her friend circle. That was great. I really did enjoy that. We saw that Howleen was scared. Like, I really saw that we got to see that Howleen was soft. Like, she wasn't extremely mean or aggressive or anything like that. Like, she was soft, and she was afraid to stand up for herself. Like, it's obvious that the girl needed help. And a lot of black girls are like that. While there are plenty of black girls out here, mind you, I feel like a lot of us are just engraved with this strong black woman mindset because we know that the world is not nice to us. As you guys know, Malcolm X has said the most disrespected person in America is the black woman. That does play a factor into why we always feel like that we always gotta have our own backs, because we feel like nobody else will be able to help us. And a lot of black girls are a lot like Howleen, where they kind of have a hard time standing up for themselves. But a lot of black girls don't really have that luxury of having people help them, especially a lot of time in the media that we see where there are, you know, the token black girls or whatnot, or movies that star black girls. They're just kind of in pain the whole time and just kind of have to fend for themselves and make everything okay on their end. But with here, it was just very kind to see, and you can kind of understand why Howleen was, you know, she didn't really feel too comfortable in the school environment, and she did want to fit in because she was so different from everybody. Like, I understand, like, Monster High, they're all like different kinds of monsters, but we also have to take into consideration that when you actually pay attention to like the school's population of Monster High, you see that there's not many black people as you think it is. She's still, like, you know, a minority, so there aren't many black kids at this school other than like her siblings and then like a few others that we see in passing and whatnot. We see that there aren't many of them here, and then on top of that, she's like a social outcast on top of being one of the few of her kind there. So like, that shit makes her feel even worse. Like, oh my gosh, y'all, I was crying so much when I watched this film, simply because I understood how she felt with not being able to fit in and whatnot. Because while I was from K through 12, I went to like all black schools, and I didn't fit in for like other reasons because of that, because of like my interest and whatnot. But like, when I became an adult and I started working around like white people my own age, like this is the first time I was ever around white people my own age when I became grown, I did understand it. I did have a bit of an understanding of how Howling was, because I didn't feel like I belonged with my coworkers either. Like, a lot of them were white and just non-black in general, and then a lot of them weren't really interested in the things I liked, or the ones that were interested in the things I liked, they weren't really all that kind to black people. It is the kinds of stories that I have. Make sure y'all get my book. We talk about it in here. Okay? But oh Jesus, I'm glad that we ended up getting a movie about just a black girl that just so desperately wanted to fit in, but also we saw that she was allowed to make mistakes. But then also in the end, we did see that people realized that there was something wrong with her, and instead of just like villainizing her, they, you know, humanized her. They were like, she needs help and we need to step in. This is not the time to be mean to her. This is not the time to do this and that and the third. Because for a bit, they were being a bit nasty towards Howleen, like not listening to her sister as she did the whole movie. But they realized, oh, just doing this and that and the third is just going to make everything worse for her. Maybe if we actually calm down a little bit and help her and understand why she's doing this, it would be better. Like, they actually got a better understanding of her unhinged behavior and how she was losing herself. Now, there is one major issue that I have with this movie, like one big flaw, and I'm not arguing with nobody. Like I said, I'm at the point where I don't argue with nobody on the internet no more. If you, like, I said what I said in this video and then it's done, okay? My video's been going on for damn near 20 minutes. I said what I said, all right? But we need to talk about Howling's casting. We absolutely fucking do. It's sad that Howling was not voiced by a black woman, and I strongly think she should have been. That most likely would have made this a bit better. And a lot of the Monster High voice cast has this problem too, where a lot of the cast members are just, first of all, it's obvious which cast members are voicing who, because their voices are not that much fucking different from each other. But the cast is like lily white, like it's white as hell, palm colored, okay? And the worst thing about it is that like Monster High is a show movie franchise that has like different kids of different backgrounds, so it makes sense to have different actors of color. All right, but I'm not going back and forth with anybody about what I'm going to say, because if you look at the super long list of voice actors, especially the ones that are always booked and busy, I'm telling y'all, y'all only know like 5 black voice actors, okay? And that's sad, because those are the only ones that be thrown around in rotation. They barely be wanting to let any other people of color in the circle. Like, no. But the ones that are booked and busy, them palm colored people, them clear people, okay? All right. And like, there's no need for white people be taking up all the jobs in every single field of work. What part of that do y'all not understand? Because I'm so tired of y'all over here saying, give the person, like, Robinson called y'all out on it too. I love him. But he was like, y'all be saying, give the person that's best for the job until that person black. That's literally how y'all always feel. And I strongly think Howleen should have been voiced by a black woman, especially because this was a coming of age story about a black girl. And this shit feels like puppetry a little bit. Like, do y'all not understand that, like, this is minstrelsy? Like, when white voice actors get on, like, you know, doing voice acting for black characters, and they're doing talking in the slang and this and that and the third, that is minstrelsy, that is puppetry, that is not okay. But anyway, I understand y'all say get the best person for the job, and then y'all complain when that person be black. But in Western media, I completely agree that black characters should be voiced by black actors, okay? Because one, there aren't nearly that many black cartoon characters as there are white ones. The list is very much shorter than it is. Like, we may have way more now in the last 5 years than we did in the last 20, but that list, that's not that long. That's not the point, okay? We still have way less characters of color in general, not just black characters, than we do white characters in cartoons, okay? So we already don't nearly have that many black cartoon characters, and then the ones we get most certainly should be voiced by black voice actors. And also, we need more black voice actors doing these characters. We can't have the same 5 voice actors on rotation doing everyone. No, like, why are y'all so opposed? Y'all like, oh, we don't need more creators of color. We need more competent creators of color. Bitch, fuck that. Why are y'all okay with almost every single field of work having 90% of it being filled with white people? That is not okay. Diversity needs to be reflected behind the scenes just as well for these productions. What part of that are you guys not getting, okay? But aside from, you know, the casting issue with the movie, and then sometimes the animation can be a little crunchy, it's a pretty solid movie. It's only about like an hour and 10 minutes long. This shit ain't long at all, okay? It's not gonna be an Oscar baiting movie, because that's not what this movie was going for, okay? But just because a movie is not released into theaters, just because it's released on a kids network or whatnot, does not mean that it doesn't have value to it, okay? This movie did what it was supposed to do, and that was telling Howleen's story of how her being so obsessed with wanting to fit in and how that ruined her, okay? That's literally what the purpose of Monster High 13 Wishes was. It just told a black girl's story. And it was just very nice to see. And it's just severely underrated in my opinion, because when we look at the list of stories about black girls coming of age, we don't really see much of anything like this. Like, you know, the cool, kooky stuff. It's just always that realistic slice of life story. But I was like, no, we're allowed to have stories about us being fairies and monsters and superheroes and things like that, of us coming of age just as well. And that is part of the reason why I highly do recommend, because black girls are allowed to see themselves as, you know, werewolves and fairies and, you know, all of those mythical creatures, okay? The Loch Ness Monster. The boogeyman. Twilight's not black though, but honestly, I low-key wish they gave Howleen a black friend, but also it contributed to the part of the reason why she didn't fit in so well, because there weren't that many black kids at their school. But this movie did what it was supposed to do, telling Howleen's story. And if you're a black woman or a femme, just black people in general growing up, struggling to fit in, please give this movie a chance. It's only like an hour long. I highly do recommend it. But then this is also something I want to go a little bit more in detail about on this channel, because it's just something that I've noticed, okay? Like, this is something I kind of hate, the fact that people don't really see the value in things when they're targeted towards children, okay? Because it took people years to finally accept the fact that SpongeBob is like comedy gold. Like, yes, that shit is actually hilarious, mainly because adults were in charge of making that. You have to remember that a lot of the people that are behind the scenes of making children's media, not a lot, a lot of them are adults, and a lot of them are telling their, stories through this media. Like, everyone was talking about how Encanto was making them cry, and how people were talking about Turning Red was making them cry and everything like that. Yeah, because that was a real life person telling this story. And I kid you not, there's numerous people out here that can relate to Howleen. But you know how Turning Red, featured Turning Red and Encanto both featured magic. Monster High, it was told through magic just as well. And black girls are allowed to have those kind of stories too. But I feel like because Encanto and Turning Red have more of a bigger budget than a typical Monster High television movie, that doesn't lower the value of the film. And I think people should still give it a chance. While yeah, not that much money was put into it as those other films, it was still worth the watch. Because I noticed that there's a lot of elitism when it happens to be children's entertainment. How a lot of people don't want to watch kid movies or kid shows or whatnot unless they're super duper popular or they have so much money put into them. And I'm just like, no. I always hate the fact that people don't see the value in things that are targeted towards kids, but a lot of these stories that y'all be asking for, they're in children's media. And this kind of story that I love, and I seen this movie for the first time when I was about 15 years old. This is the kinds of stories that I would love to see more of, and it just so happened to be in a kids movie, and that's okay. Yes, it would be nice to see more adult media about us going to a college for monsters and fairies and things like that. Yeah, that would be cool to see, but we gotta deal with what we got for now, okay? We gotta put up with this for now, okay? And I'm not just gonna sit here and not watch something because I'm not in the target age demographic. Bluey is over here meant for 4-year-olds, and I still be turning this shit on and I be dying at it. Alright? Monster High mainly about 9 and 10-year-olds, because I went to middle school when Monster High started and I loved it so much. Mainly because I was a lot closer to the characters' ages than the things I was into when I was younger and whatever. But I did used to get made fun of for liking Monster High and all these other things. But I simply just don't care anymore, because I'm like, no, this is the kind of story that I love, and these are the kinds of stories that I enjoy, and I'm not gonna see lesser value in them simply because it's made for kids. No, there's a lot of children's media out here, y'all, that I think is pretty good, and I think y'all should give it a chance, okay? But I feel like because it's labeled as for kids, that is just what turns people away from it. Because Monster High 13 Wishes, I love this movie a lot more now as an adult than I did when I was a kid, okay? Because as a kid, how I felt about Howleen was how I felt about Ty Lee from Avatar: The Last Airbender. You guys been following me for a while. You know I made that video where I said Ty Lee was annoying and how I hated her. In the past, I didn't like Howleen for the same reason I didn't like Ty Lee, because I saw so much of myself in them characters at that age range. But now that I'm older and I have grown and matured a little bit, I love Howleen. I am a Howleen stan, okay? I run a Howleen fan page at this point. And it's just so interesting how I went so long without rewatching this movie, and I finally rewatched it again this year, and I was just bawling my eyes out because of how understanding I was. I love Ty Lee, but Ty Lee's not black, and to see this happen with a black character that you look like them, and then you also identify with so much of the things, because I was very much unhinged at that age. Howleen was 14 in this. The way she was acting was how I was from the ages of 10 to 14, because I was hurting on the inside and I was doing the most unhinged ass shit because I was desperately wanting to fit in. I desperately wanted friends. I was crying for help, and I love this movie. I could just sit here and gush about how much I just love Howleen and Monster High, but I don't want to make this video too long. But that is just some food for thought right there. Somebody had said some shit talking about, why don't you talk about real movies and shows? Bitch, this is a real movie. There was a whole production team behind it. That's a real movie. If Monster High 13 Wishes wasn't a real movie, what the hell did I just watch then? Okay, but that's pretty much all I gotta say for this video. Even though one thing I didn't like about Monster High, they always, you kind of have to learn a lesson at the end. Even though howleen learned her lesson about you don't always have to fit in, you're fine just the way you are. But also Clawdeen learned a lesson too, talking about, yeah, maybe you actually need to listen to your damn sister and actually try to understand what she's dealing with. But that's pretty much all I gotta say for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching my books, my You're Not Crucial. Please go ahead and, you know, get yours if you haven't already. I literally had gotten a book order in the middle of filming. Thank you guys so much. And don't forget to get My Lady Perfidy. It is so beautiful, y'all. Like, this is the perfect coffee table book. Okay, but next thing I know, The Progenies is my Descendants fan series. The link to that will be down below if you guys are interested in checking that out. Patreon, if you guys want to support my work, highly do appreciate that. Last but not least, just follow me on everything for free. It don't cost nothing. It's free 99 at Harriyanna, HARIYANNA. And make sure you guys are following my store's Instagram called harriyannahook, like it is how on my channel. That's where I post all my business stuff and stuff about my YouTube channel and updates and all that. So you guys make sure you follow my business account just as well. And make sure you guys follow my spam account too if you just want cute little fun stuff and memes and whatnot. My spam account is called harryhookup. I will have the link to all three. I actually have 4 Instagrams because of the Progenies Instagram, but we on hiatus right now for that one. But I'll have the link to all 3 of my Instagrams down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have you seen Monster High 13 Wishes? Leave a comment down below. How do you feel about the unhinged black girl that we rarely ever get to see in the media and how they handled it correctly? Like, we've seen a lot of unhinged black girls in our media, but the way it was handled here was done pretty well. How do you guys feel about how howleen's character was dealt with? I'm very much curious and I would love to know. But thank you guys so much for watching. I very much deeply do appreciate all the love and care and support that you guys give me. But Harry needs to go do her nails right now. They're naked. My nails are naked. I'm just gonna go paint them black like I always do. But thank you guys so much for watching and have a good night. 'Cause I work hard to get to this point in my life. I'm blowing up, so don't hate. Just
Powerpuff Girls will just blow your mind. Buttercup like villains 3 at a time. Bubbles will smile while kicking your butt, and Blossom will lead them out of their rut. Cherish and Powerpuff, 2 of a kind. Both wanna save the world before bedtime. From Townsville, Memphis, New York to LA, the Powerpuff Girls are just here to stay.